Okay.
Let's see. I'm always surprised what we end up talking about.
And how far it goes. Okay, so let's do this. Welcome to Four Beers In. Hi, I'm Brendan.
I am Matt.
Marco.
Tammy.
And on this show, let's just talk about like what almost goes next to beer is sports, chosen by Marco. So before we jump into some sports, let's talk about our beers because I'm actually changing it up a little bit. I've got our Brute IPA today, which is kind of a nice crisp IPA. It's on the lighter side of things as far as color and boldness, but higher on the alcohol content, pushing a like 7.0, 7.1 kind of thing. A little on the dry on the end of it, but I mean it's a good summer fuck you up beer. Even though I'm drinking it in the fall, close to Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving fuck you up beer.
Yeah. What do you got?
I've got a Two-Hearted Ale from Bell's. It's an American IPA, also about 7.0.
Oh, nice.
I bought it because of the logo, without looking at the IP or alcohol per volume.
Not that it almost has the same last name.
Wine
or
bottles
name.
do that.
It
to
has
me.
exactly the same last name.
Yeah.
I like the
So-
labels of wine bottles.
Well, that's how Tammy buys her wine.
Sometimes.
The labels.
Well, if it's in the category I want.
That's actually not necessarily a bad thing from when I've done some wine tastings. The sommeliers have told me like successful brands will spend more on the packaging.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
There's-
not necessarily always true, but
Right.
it's a good indicator if you know nothing about a wine. If it's in like a quality bottle with quality label.
But yeah, I mean, it's an impression, and it's also kind of part of sales. So, what are you sipping on?
You know more about this beer than I do.
It's
But
delicious.
it's a chocolate cherry?
Yeah, chocolate cherry porter. We used real fudge and cherries, which kind of make it a little bit.
It comes through, you can really taste it.
Yeah,
But
and
it's not like overpowering like fake flavor.
that's why we went the route we did, because 2 years ago when it was brewed, we used an artificial. And it kind of almost was a Robitussin.
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 That sounds
kinda-
delicious.
It was the Lil Wayne Porter.
Yeah, a little
You're
bit.
fighting a cold? Come drink our beer.
Yeah,
Now that's your winter brew right there.
exactly. Got a little bit of a scratchy throat? Have some of the chocolate cherry porter. We snuck in some, Robitussin.
It's like a flaming mo.
Yeah.
The secret ingredient is cough syrup. Simple over-the-counter children's cough syrup.
Comes in all variety of flavors. This one we chose cherry. So to avoid that, this year we used real ingredients and had bricks of fudge that we had to melt down.
It actually tastes like chocolate
and
and
it-
cherry.
The more I drink it, the more it grows on me. And I'm more kind of like Matt. I like my beer flavored beer. So to stray away a little bit, like in our text, the way Matt, it sounds like a nice dessert. It definitely is a good way to end the evening.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah?
I haven't had one yet, but for dessert I will.
Nice. I like it. Tam?
I'm going to switch it up after this, but I have my typical berry seltzer just because it's lower cal. But I'm going to switch to the Brute.
Oh, you're going
I'm going to
brew.
go Brute after this, and then I'm going to end with a coffee stout because that's my favorite.
She's got this all mapped out. The rest of
I
the
do.
evening, all mapped out. Now we'll see how that goes.
Stupid question. Does coffee stout maintain its caffeine when
Yeah.
you
Good
brew it?
question. I didn't even think of
I
that.
believe so.
Okay.
We infused or added a 24-hour cold drip coffee to the end of the process. So the beer had been done fermenting. It was just a straight stout.
Yeah.
And then we added it on. So
It's not
I
like
would
cooking
ass-
with wine, though, where it boils out the
Or cooks
alcohol.
No,
out
there
most
was
of
no
it.
cooking involved. In fact, it was
Right,
just
but
all
caffeine
chilling,
still stays in there?
Yeah, it
Okay.
still should be in there.
Oh, so you can't yell at me if I
That's
go get
like,
a coffee stout versus a cup of coffee.
Right.
Because I want coffee all the time. And he's like, it's 9 o'clock at night. You're not going to sleep. But if I grabbed a coffee stout, you might not say anything.
That was
Like,
on
cheers.
the Drew Carey show. They microbrewed
Beer.
Buzz Beer, which was
Ooh.
coffee beer, and their motto was, Marco,
I can't remember that.
stay up and get drunk all over again.
All right. I like that. Yeah, let's get to some sports, man. I'm gonna toss it on over to you.
Yeah, so the topic I picked was favorite sports teams and why,
Okay.
or maybe some good anecdotes, some good memories that you have around that particular sports team.
I think my very favorite sports team is that one that Who's on First and I don't know
Abbott
who's
and
on
Costello?
third. Abbott and Costello, yeah, the one that they managed. I like that team.
Yeah.
All-time favorite. The next one would be Sam Malone's Boston Red Sox.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Those were like the insufferable Boston Red Sox, though, before they started winning and
Well, that's because
basically becoming the Yankees.
you say Malone's Red Straw. I mean, it's not like he was a phenomenal pitcher.
Oh, he was a
so-
relief pitcher strictly. He
Yep.
never started.
Yeah.
He was Mayday Malone.
Yeah.
And he doesn't remember most of his career anyways. He just woke up with a bar and said, nice bar.
And
I'll do this now.
sold it twice, but somehow ended up, still running
That-
the bar.
That Beacon Street real estate must be dirt cheap.
How about we start with soccer or football, since we're all pretty much soccer
Or football.
fans.
Okay.
Do you want to start or do you want to assign somebody?
Yeah, I'll start. So I've always been kind of a Francophile, obsessed with like French history and culture. So I followed the French national team, was kind of my first foray into soccer fandom. And then that kind of branched out to me becoming an Arsenal fan because of Thierry Henry.
Thought you were going to say
Alright.
arsonist.
Yeah, all arsonist.
What-
as
what
in
it-
Arsene Wenger.
As a Francophile, what age are we talking about? And you gotten into the French national team?
Kind of like 10, 12
Okay,
ish.
respectable.
And that was when Arsenal also had their really successful teams under Arsene Wenger, like early 2000s.
You're a lot younger than me. I was going to say, how did you as a 10-year-old get to watch those teams?
Well,
But you're way younger
98,
than me.
I think. Yeah,
Oh,
98.
that was
Those
the World Cup was in France for 98.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was the really kind of the good time to
My
become
boys beat ya.
a French fan. Yeah, they had Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira was another Arsenal player,
Oh, yeah.
pretty respectable. Robert Pires. Yeah, there were a lot of French Arsenal connections, and that's kind of how I picked my club team because I never really followed club soccer. I always followed the international game.
In 98, it's understandable.
Yeah, because it was easier to see international games at that point because
Yeah, and they didn't really play club.
At this point
Games
in
back
Denver,
then.
it's easier to see international games than our local team.
yeah, which is kind of sad.
But for me, I was 10 in 88. So when you were born, I think.
Yeah, 87.
Oh.
So I was a wee babe.
I did enjoy once in a while scanning the Spanish channel and catching a Mexican League soccer game. I would watch for a little while, but I couldn't understand it, so I would pass. I would move on.
You could put the caps on.
I wouldn't have known how to do that at 10 or how to find an actual
Yeah,
English language
I
soccer
wouldn't
game.
either.
So soccer eluded me as a child. I was a big baseball fan, specifically the Cubs, because I grew up in Colorado, where we didn't have the Rockies till I was 15. But more than the Cubs, I was a big Andre Dawson fan. I don't know what about that guy I loved, but he was a big slugger.
Hold
Are
on.
we good? Okay.
Yeah, no. Okay, video's back. And we are back. So yeah, soccer teams for me it was, and I've always kind of like you were a Francophile. I want to be a Scotsman.
Scotland.
And yet you cannot do the accent.
No,
You don't even practice.
it somehow comes out Irish,
Toot toot fatty zoot.
which I guess the actual Irish in me just seems.
You
to
just
bleed
you haven't
it out.
watched the movie Trainspotting enough.
Not-
you just
no,
kind
I
of
haven't.
whatever Begbie's yelling, yell that.
Okay.
If that's not your fault, I don't know what ice. Because he has a gorgeous accent.
That you did that pretty well, man. I think I followed. I was a Rangers fan for quite a bit, even though I couldn't watch the games. sometimes I couldn't even get internet to pull up because this was like late '90s where you still had to like dial up shit. But it was national teams because at the time the '98 World Cup was one of the first World Cups, at least that I could recall as a kid, where Scotland had made it, and they didn't do well, but they did beat France.
Wasn't that the last one they made?
That was the last one that they made. There
At least you understand the Scottish
It's
accent.
just been paying ever since.
Yes, well, they've come close so many times, and they just qualified for Euros this year, which was the first time that they've done that, and probably, oh man, it might even be a decade. And so there's a lot of hope, I think, for the Tartan Army that World Cup qualifying could happen because how they do in Euros matters. It's kind of almost like the CONCACAF for the Americas. So you do well there, you get yourself a bid. Our English Mastiff we named kind of after my favorite player, Kenny Miller. She was a female, so you can't name a female Kenny, so we named her Kenna.
Damn gender rules and dogs. They got to do something about that ASPCA.
Right?
Tyrannical.
I felt a little bit differently about my Scottish players and stuff like that when we got Cade, and we ended up naming him after a video game character. But I think at some point down the road, some other dog or pet might end up getting a name after, James McFadden or Ally McCoist or, some of the other greats, although I didn't even touch on Alex Ferguson because he was more of a coach, not so much a player. But there's some greatness that has come out of Scotland that I've always kind of followed as far as soccer goes.
I was going to ask you about that because not a lot of people know about Alex Ferguson in Scotland, but they associate him with Manchester United.
Until you hear him talk. And
Right.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
He's Edinburgh, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a classy
Yeah.
gentleman.
And
So why aren't you a Manchester United fan?
I didn't really. I don't know why. I think there's a part of me that refuses to follow a team that is so big that other people follow them, even though they don't know what they're talking about.
That's what it is, especially when you're talking about late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Manchester United was the bandwagon team.
Right. Absolutely, they were, and still kind of in some cases are. And it's I wouldn't say a turnoff, but it rubs me wrong if I wouldn't even say a casual fan, but if someone comes up to me that doesn't really know soccer, but that's who they know, and they're like, that's who I follow. I get it, because that's all you know or who you know. But if you really want to know more about
Name
the
their
sport,
starting 11.
yeah, exactly. Do something like that, or even kind of tell me who they've played against. That's a lower league. Like, ask me about Wolverhampton or Ipswich or some of the other like names that you might hear or see on a fixture against Man U. But if you're gonna come at me and talk to me about how awesome Man U and Man City are, and you've been a fan for all of 2 months, I'm not really gonna engage in much of a conversation. I don't know why, but I've had a few people like that. Oh, you're soccer? Let's talk soccer. But then you're only talking about soccer that's just shoved down your throat for the last 2 months you've been a fan. I don't know. I guess that makes me a dick, but
So going off of that, your club team and how you became a fan of that team.
So
Topics.
my club team is Rangers, as far as Scotland goes. Now, England, I mean, you guys know it. Brighton and Morecambe. I have teams in almost every league that I can follow or want to follow. The last one I'm going to mention is clearly the Rapids because that's my hometown
Because they're the
team,
last one.
But they are, in a weird way, the last one. And I think part of my problem with the Rapids is that I've been covering this team for a decade, and I've done a lot for the team and the supporters group, and Matt as well. We've built a lot and just got shat on between both the supporters group and the club at times, and it dwindled my flame for the club. And now here they are, actually playoff bound and a good looking roster, and I'm a bit removed. And a lot of it is just because of how a club can treat its fans and journalists. I was lucky enough, or have been lucky enough, to be a journalist for a club, and wanted to be for other clubs. But that's all kind of been skewed and changed based on my experience from my hometown team. But yeah, I Rangers and Brighton hold a higher candle than the Rapids, sadly.
And for me, I forgot to mention Marseille. That was kind of my
Was that your
adopted
club?
team, because when I studied abroad, it was in the south of France, and that was the team that everyone would watch. Champions League back in '07. They're the underdogs against Liverpool.
But they've had a rough history. They haven't always been all that great.
Well, historically, they're the only French club that has won Champions League, and even that is kind of controversial because they had a match-fixing scandal.
Oh, really?
Not with Champions League games, but with lower. It was the situation.
League Two?
How I've read it was they were trying to kind of work around their roster issues to win Champions League. So, when teams are in all those competitions, they have to rest players or whatever.
Right.
So there was something going on with that. It's still, nothing's been proven because I've read some biographies, which granted are biased because they're biographies of players that played for that team. So there's different accounts of what happened, but they're still officially the only French League One team that has won Champions League, and that's why it's pretty big for them when Bayern beat PSG. That was almost like when you see your rival not equal you cheer as much as if your team was in the game.
Right. That's like any Rapids fan being happy when they see RSL get their ass smashed.
And with the local soccer club, the Rapids, I went to games and stuff growing up. Like I went to Mile High Stadium, but I was kind of a Euro snob as far as soccer goes, admittedly.
There's a lot that still are.
I didn't view it the same as like the big clubs in Europe, but at the same time, I really appreciated players like Marcelo Balbo and Pablo. Just seeing those guys play at a high level with the national team, but I would never have said I was like a diehard Rapids fan, but at the same time, I've kind of experienced the same kind of lack of luster or loss of luster that you mentioned.
Yeah, they did it to us. How about you, Matt?
Well, nowadays I'm only a Rapids fan, and because of COVID and because of I don't have cable, and I haven't had cable for 10 years, and I'll never have cable again. I can't watch my team on TV unless I go and pay money somewhere at a bar or something, which I can't always do. I don't always want to do. So honestly, most game days, I don't know it's a game day until I see on Twitter that it's a game day, and then I forget to follow the game. Then I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh yeah, how did that game go? And bada boom, we're in the playoffs. And I've missed out on it, and I almost don't even care.
Now, do you chalk some of that down to COVID, or do you think that's kind of the way
Well,
the club has handled?
The broadcast thing was before COVID.
Yeah, it's always been impossible to watch them on TV since I've been here 6 years now. I know they used to be on a terrestrial channel too, but they're not. They haven't been for since 2009.
Oh yeah, it's been since Mile High. Yeah,
Since 2009 or 10 or something. I think I read once. But since Kroenke has taken his teams and put them on his network, which seems like it should be illegal, and then the cable companies here, who I don't subscribe to anyway, now are in disputes with them, and nobody can watch them unless you have exactly one carrier
and pay extra money
and pay like top tier cable. I just, I will pay to go to the live event. I will not pay to watch it on TV. That's where I'm at.
I get you.
I love the experience of the Rapids. I love the experience of all soccer matches. I love the fans. They're better than every other sport. I love the game. It's better than any other game. I love the experience. It's better than any other live sporting event.
How about your Hearts experience?
My Hearts experience was great, but they lost. And they lost to Celtic when Celtic had just been abandoned by their head coach. which was supposed to demoralize them, and it didn't. They still won handily. But more than the game, I remember the gentleman who I met who got me into the game, because you can't buy Celtic tickets unless they know who you are,
Oh wow.
because of hooliganism over there, and that's a fascinating tale. They would not sell me a ticket to that game because I'm not already on record as having been to a Hearts game before. They don't know that I'm a Hearts fan. So they basically, I guess it's common practice for Celtics and Rangers fans to dress in false colors, infiltrate the supporters, and then cause all kinds of shit inside the stands.
Fuckers.
In
That's
fact, in
funny.
Scotland, there is like a whole section empty between Celtic fans and Hearts fans, and there are in that section police, and they don't let them touch. Most of Europe is that way. I think Italy actually has the National Guard at a lot of their games, like Roma, Juventus, and stuff. But yeah, I had to get in by asking a nice older guy to buy me a ticket, and I would pay him back, and I did, and he did, but he had to buy it under his son-in-law's name.
That's crazy.
So I attended the game under the name Patrick Mack, so Patty Mack, and it was great. I loved the experience. I loved all of the games I saw in England and Great Britain, but it's also hard to follow the Hearts. You know, I follow most of them on social media, and that's kind of a very removed place to be. But such is the world. When I can get Hearts TV, maybe I will. When I can stream it to my TV. But I think right now I can't. I think last time I checked, I don't think I could.
I had an issue with Rangers TV being in America.
Yeah, I
If-
think Hearts
if I
still
had
has
got
an
a
issue.
VPN where I had a UK VPN or something.
You
Yeah.
gotta teach Matt how to use a VPN.
I don't want to. I don't like computers, and I don't want to know any more about them. I would hate to have to learn things to get.
To have
I
to
don't
go
know.
through all that extra effort when
It seems like they should be coming to me.
right.
I always tell my son this because he's going to grow up in this computer age, and he wants to make video games. And I always tell him the phrase "idiot proof." I'm the idiot that you're thinking of. If I can do it, you've done well at designing it. I don't think I should have to learn something I don't want to learn in order to give you money. I think you should come to me and get my money.
Well,
I'm here with my money.
yeah, that's good business. It's bad business if you have to seek it out.
Yeah, and Crunky, my hometown team, doesn't want my money. They would rather have no fans than my money.
Makes
than
you
come to get
wonder.
my money.
Like why? Because they seem to do this.
We literally,
To
the entire
themselves.
fan base is literally begging them to take their money, and Crunky could not care less.
Yeah,
KSE.
it doesn't make sense because it almost seems like there's some sort of underlying reason as to why they do it. Like, is it more of a write-off having this team than it is to actually put in the effort to be competitive with other teams in the same kind of market? Because Kansas City isn't doing this.
No.
And Dallas
In fact,
isn't.
because of pandemic, we've learned that almost every other team has offered some kind of streaming service to their fans.
or they'll put it straight up on their own website.
Yeah.
But-
And we also know from Rapid's past that they will subvert streams from other teams that they're playing against in minor, like in the Desert Diamond Cup. They would suppress streams from lower leagues they were playing.
Yeah, that got
That's like they're actively hurting us at that point. So, as much as it's funny because as much as you hate the ownership, it makes you almost appreciate the players more because they're in this shitstorm they don't deserve to be in, and they're doing well this year, and they deserve to be recognized. And this ownership is just
yeah.
not allowing it.
Which can lead to a whole different discussion maybe for another time, but being a fan of a crappy club, it what is it like to be a fan where you go from like I just want to win to accepting mediocrity?
I feel like that's an experience unique to sports. Because if it's like a band or a content creator and something else, you would just stop being a fan.
a little bit. I think you're
Or
right. I
if,
mean,
if it's like a Bill Cosby situation, it's like
okay,
who will openly say they're a Bill Cosby fan
now
these days?
right. I think you're onto something there because I could think of a couple bands where they've put out some pretty shitty albums, but yet I still go back every once in a while to see if something good has happened.
Or if you go to their show and they're just bad, you
That's
just stop,
a really good
you
way
just
to
stop going to
Yep.
see that band. You might still listen to the albums because that's different. But if you go to a live show and they're not very good, you kind of lose some of your fandom.
Yeah,
which
I
I've
can't argue
experienced
that.
with a few different bands.
Oh, it's happened for more than once for you. All right, we'll save that for another episode because
Mostly rappers, which
Yeah.
I should learn my lesson with that one.
yeah,
I
most
think Guns N' Roses falls in that category too.
yeah they've had some issues live. That's for sure. Tam, do you really like? I mean, you follow soccer mostly because I do, but
You
Well,
married into
I
fanaticism.
did, but we're not in a state that you're I feel bad for the Rapids because here it's more Broncos, Rockies.
Literally everything else.
Exactly. So really, you don't. I didn't.
So
even
you're
know
a sports
soccer
widow, but it
really
could be
existed
worse.
when I moved out here until I met you, which is really unfortunate because they don't advertise it as much. But where I grew up, I mean, it was more football and hockey.
all right. So no
That-
real soccer team.
That
for you.
happens. I was once out and about in the city of Denver, which I often am. And sometimes you see somebody wearing a Rapids shirt
And they
or
think
jacket.
it's abs. People will mistake that a lot with the colors. Sorry.
Well, it doesn't happen often. But when you see somebody, you try to say, hey, go Rapids or something like that. You acknowledge it. So I happened across this woman who was wearing a Rapids jacket in the winter. And I said, hey, you don't see many Rapids fans out here. And she said, I don't know who that is. I just like the color.
That
Oh, wow.
I was gonna say that because I've seen my mom has bought some Rapid stuff in the past, and she's just like, "Oh, this was on sale. It was $3 at Walmart."
It's
I
irregular.
can be guilty of that, but I know who the Rapids are. I still I do like the colors, but I used to wear it to work when I worked at the.
Or the other
dispensary.
common one is, "Oh, my kid plays for the
Yeah.
The
so and so
youth.
club
Usually
team."
Yeah.
there's a link for me, but I've worn it where I used to work, and sometimes if it would be mistaken for Avs. If they didn't see the actual logo and they just knew it was an athletic jacket.
Yeah.
Oh, Avs are doing good or not doing good. I'm like, it's actually the Rapids.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me how huge hockey is in this city because I grew up in this city when all we had was the Nuggets, the Broncos, and the Zephyrs, which were a AAA baseball team. And I wouldn't call it a sports town. It really wasn't. And when we got the Avalanche, they immediately won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, which pisses me off from being a sports hockey fan. in
And
Buffalo.
and I feel like those kinds of seasons need to be an asterisk because I was only vaguely aware that they came from like Montreal or something. I don't know where
When
they
did
came
they
from.
They
start?
came
Were they
from
95?
Quebec City, which
Quebec
is
City.
When did-
interesting because I've actually been to Quebec City, and that's the first thing Quebecers bring up. If you mention you're from Colorado, they will say something to the tune of, "Oh, you took our Stanley Cup."
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did
Well,
not
when
win
did
that Stanley
Colorado get
Cup.
a team? Was it 95 when they?
Yeah,
think it
95,
was-
96,
yeah.
around that
It
time.
is. I mean, and you did very well. I mean, you've won. I mean, lived here for 2 cup wins, and then, but I'm a Buffalo fan, so I'm a Sabre fan, which they were established, I think, in 1971, and we've never won the cup. We've had highs and lows for sure, but then I move out here and you fucking win the cup twice, and I'm like, God damn! But I do like the Avs. I do like the Avs, and I did.
But it's always fascinating to me how the city has grabbed onto the Avs, but not the Rapids. And I
Yeah.
wonder why. I
don't
wonder
think
if it's
they're promoted
marketing.
very well.
I know if you go to any sporting goods store, you will not find most likely a Rapids shirt, but you will find Avs, Nuggets, Broncos,
Yeah.
And also
Rockies,
success.
Mammoth sometimes.
Well,
Well,
market
it's funny,
a
if you go to
sports
Dick's-
team.
Yeah, they're like a tiny little section, and then like, it's so sad.
Yeah, I have a hoodie from Dick's, but that's the only thing I've ever found there.
Yeah.
Most of the times I have
gotta
to
go
get
to
them at
Kohl's.
the club store.
I don't think Cole's has them.
Actually, I was gonna say I don't know.
Or
if I've
Target.
actually
I've
bought-
seen some stuff in
Have you?
Target.
Yeah, I check the Target local section. It's always CU, CSU, but I don't see any Rapids. out
I've
in-
seen more high school merch than I
Yep.
have
Yep.
Rapids merch,
Yeah.
which really is just
It is kind of sad because I feel like it is a huge sport, like you guys were talking earlier, and like other countries, and it's one of the sports you don't have to have $1 million to play in, and it really should be embraced. A cardio, and it's a hard sport, but I don't think it's respected in America like it is in other.
No, because you have like big like sports personalities like Jim Rome and whatnot that will.
Uh,
I mean, you have
every
sports you can be
opportunity
fat
to-
in. You
to-
can be fat in football. You
In
can be fat in
baseball, yeah.
baseball.
sometimes it helps depending on your position.
That's
if you're a
true.
center, you have to be
It's like
fat.
our dog, our mastiff. He just like wrestles you down, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what defense would do.
Yeah, and all
Just
those
throw your weight on them.
NFL linemen always lose weight after they retire. And you're like, you're not the same person.
What
They
happened?
become super skinny because
Yeah.
they have to put on weight to play that.
Right.
But we went to see a soccer game. My experience with soccer, being a newbie, it was night and day to actually go to a Rapids game. And it was fun, don't get me wrong. I mean, you have the experience of, I love sports, and live sports is better than TV sports anytime. But then we went to visit my brother in Portland, Oregon, and we went to a Timbers game, and it was freaking night and day
Oh yeah.
of like it. If we lived there,
Atmosphere has
I
a
would
lot
be
to
sold
do
on
with it.
soccer, and I would love the sport because the energy and the people there. I mean, that was thriving.
You
and it had
can-
a totally different atmosphere.
You
like,
can walk around the city of Portland and
Oh my
find
God.
Timbers decals in business windows.
It was
the
totally-
sport. It's super. It's the Portland Blazers and the Timbers are just about on that same level. The Timbers are a little less than the NBA, but there are businesses. There was a barber chain that sponsored by the Timbers or sponsors the Timbers,
it's
and you would see their logo in every one of
Oh,
those
that's
barber
awesome.
shops. You see merch everywhere, people everywhere. You see gear everywhere. There's such a huge army. The Timbers army is a huge
Well,
fan base.
Yeah, and that's where
The
I
stadium
realized
is
soccer
huge.
is actually not too bad, and it's big, and it just depends. And it's really unfortunate that Colorado hasn't grasped that.
Yeah.
Because you do have people all over the country that live here, and that's what.
Well, you kind of see it with every new franchise that puts the Rapids to shame with their stadium size, their stadium sellouts, their
Well, and
the
that
fan base in general.
it was, and it comes down to the people in leadership positions on the supporters side and the club side give a shit, care, and are putting it out there for people to become a part of something great. We got none of that coming out of either one of the two things that I just said. And then I don't mean to, like, I'm wearing our supporters group hoodie, but our supporters group has had some issues these last couple of years, COVID withstanding, but it doesn't help that the club just doesn't. They say they work with us and they do the bare minimum to do so, but it's nothing compared to like her Portland experience.
Oh,
In
it
order to
was
have
night and
that here
day.
in Colorado,
It was like going to a Bronco game in Portland.
yeah, I mean we would have to figure out how to bring out the real soccer fans because, I mean, we were kind of briefly talking about it. You mentioned being a Euro snob, and I think I kind of was too for a long time, and I still have a
Jojo.
brother who is like. We grew up in a soccer household, and my mom probably loves the Rapids more than all of us in this room combined, despite everything we've just said to piss on them. But my one brother he just refuses to give MLS and the Rapids any chance at all. He won't watch. He won't care. He's just like, the quality sucks. It's never going to be better. We just don't know how to he's got his whole line of excuses, and it's instilled in his head that we'll just never be as good. Even if that's the case, we still have a decent product right here.
I disagree with that because there's other states that are doing really well and have.
Well, that's what I'm
success-
saying. Like
yeah.
as MLS as a
Right.
league is a good league. There are teams and games worth watching, and they're putting it out there. You don't have to be a Rapids fan. In fact, I almost encourage you not to be at this point.
Aw, you
Well,
need that.
no, like I mean,
I'm like,
it-
that's the point.
Well, if
We
you're a
need
new
'em.
fan adopting a team, there's plenty of teams.
don't adopt this one because you're going to
Although-
be disappointed after next year. Like you can't, like
Unless
Matt
you
said,
want to be a hipster like Brendan and not follow a team that everyone else follows
go
because
follow
of
Houston.
popularity.
you
Well,
know.
you bring in big names like you got, was it Tim Howard, and then you had Jones.
Jermaine Jones, yes, yeah, we brought in some names, but
Thinking it would bring in the clientele, and maybe Tim Howard did bring
One of those two
Matt
actively
did
hated
the
our
math.
club.
But
The
did
other
you think
one
it was
didn't
gonna
have
bring more-
sustainable change at all.
Jones didn't.
Well, neither of them had sustainable change. Howard didn't. Jones was here for a year and actively hated the club.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And he didn't even play that much. He was hurt for most of his season.
And I wouldn't say
he
that
big timed us.
Tim
is what he
hated
did.
the club, but he was basically
Above
collecting
it
a check.
Yeah.
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 He was a deal to get a sponsor on the shirt, which is something that was also embarrassing when we were the only team that didn't have a shirt sponsor.
And we had to go out of state to get it.
Yes, for that first year we had that.
Chow.
Not
that
only
was
Chow,
before
but
Chow.
with Transamerica, until they changed the logo, we had their San Francisco building, that iconic building. I think it's called the Salesforce Tower now, of San Francisco, a city that has a team 40 minutes away in San Jose. We got their logo on our shirt for the first year of that sponsorship deal. Then they had to take it off. But Transamerica
And the only reason they took it off is because Transamerica sold that building
to Salesforce.
So they had to take it out of their logo.
To be clear, they sold the naming rights, not they didn't own the building. But yeah, they sold it to Salesforce, I hear. And all that Tim Howard deal amounted to was that sponsor, and he did a whole bunch of corporate events for them that we didn't know about until after it happened.
Interesting.
The employees of that company got to have one-on-one meet and greets with Tim Howard, autograph signings and photos.
Oh, they were pampered.
And the fans,
We saw it.
the fans didn't even get to see him arrive at the airport,
Aw.
which is something you will not find in Portland.
Yeah, in fact,
Well, I
sometimes.
just didn't know. Like, did you think it would actually help the
well, that's how they sold it to
sales
us.
and like
It-
trying to
That's
bring
what they.
people in?
That
and-
was what they.
I'm
I
sure
mean,
his
he is
jersey
a
did
well-known
well.
soccer player.
I'm sure his jersey
No,
did
his
well.
jersey wasn't top
no,
10.
it wasn't.
Really?
Really? I saw one the other day. Somebody walking around in a Tim
And
Howard number one.
surprisingly,
Nice.
Chris Wondolowski's jersey has been top 10.
Well, it's
And he's
because
not even a particularly popular player on a popular team.
see,
At least I don't think so.
Is
No.
Rondo still with KC?
yeah, no,
No, San Jose.
San
now.
Jose, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Matt doesn't even
I'm-
know
I'm
which
more-
team he plays on.
I'm more a fan of his wife, to be frank.
That's hey, that's fair, man.
I prefer
As an
players that
athlete-
score in World Cups.
As an athlete, she's phenomenal.
Well, and I think that goes down to kind of like soccer and football. The goal scorer or the quarterback; those are the ones that people are going to pay attention to the more. And so, yeah, that's why Wando's going to get
So
more shirt
yeah,
sales
and
than-
so Tim Howard's never going to get my mom to think
No,
of them
but
as
for
not a
some
AAA
reason-
baseball team.
Yeah, but for some reason, Tim Howard had my mom thinking he
Oh
was
my
the
God.
Messiah. Like, there's a picture of her.
I
like,
love
she literally is like,
that picture. Because actually, I could care less. And she was like, let's get a picture. And I'm like, I'll get a picture with him. I'll take a picture with anyone. And then the way she was just looking at him, it was like he was God.
it was. I mean,
It's cute.
yeah. In
Yeah,
fact,
it's kind of funny, but in that whole fan kind of mentality, I can really like our players and I can like take pictures, selfies with them, but I can't get their autographs because the reality is it's a 22, 23-year-old kid, and I'm not. And I feel weird about getting an autograph from a kid. So I've never been like this autograph hound kind of person, but it's this weird kind of relationship that I have as a fan with the players. And the good thing about the Rapids is I've gotten close to a lot of players because I've done the award presentations and stuff. But at the end of the day, I just feel like an old man. Just like,
I've kind of
That's
gotten
really
that
nice
way
to know.
too. I've gotten to be more of the legend autograph seeker, the guys who are like in their 50s and 60s, and you're like,
yeah.
this gotta get this guy's autograph before he kicks the bucket.
I can see that. The retired of the greats that you might want. Because I'm kind of like you, man.
Because
I
it's
don't
more
have
like you
autographs of
look
people
up to
until they're
those
older, or
guys,
younger,
and you
when I was
can't really
younger.
look up to athletes if they're younger than you.
It feels wrong to look up to a 20-year-old kid. Yeah. It just feels weird and wrong. And it's like,
I
no.
think the last.
I've accomplished things in my own kind of avenue of life.
Yeah.
I can appreciate you winning and playing well, and I can root for you all the way to the top. But I don't need your signature on a
but I'm
piece
not
of
going to. Yeah.
Also,
paper.
it makes me more cognizant of how cocky athletes are. It's like, you're like 24 and you haven't, like, yeah, you're a professional athlete, but you haven't really accomplished much for how cocky you are.
Yeah, but their sports, their careers are so short, really. They're old
Well, that's
at
the other
30
thing
or
is, like,
35, which is crazy.
Once you retire from professional sports, it's like, what else are you gonna do unless you're
Yeah.
like an
Unless you're-
absolute legend? It's like
Yeah, or smart enough to talk into a microphone. It makes sense.
Well, there are a few. I mean, we had chatted about Terry Bradshaw. He seems to be making a career out of that.
yeah, but that
Well,
guy's
he's
a juggernaut.
He's had
He's,
TV
he
shows
can
now.
sing.
He sings.
He has
got
all these
reality.
albums.
He's also got a gimmick. He's
TV
kind
shows.
of a bonehead.
Yeah.
He plays a character that I guess is lovable,
is
even
named
though I've heard
Tammy.
he's a jerk. But
So, what other sports are in our hearts?
so I grew up as only a baseball fan, and we didn't have the Rockies yet, so I was a Cubs fan because Cubs were always on WGN, which is a channel I got.
Yep, Channel 2.
So I became a huge Andre Dawson fan. He was my favorite slugger. I was a Sean Dunston fan. I think he was shortstop, and I wanted to play shortstop, but I ended up in right field, of course, because I sucked. Yeah, I'll own it. But all my friends were also Cubs fans, which helped.
you
because-
didn't mention the great Ryan.
My friend Brian was a Ryan Sandberg gigantic fan. I appreciated Ryan Sandberg, but my friend was fanatic about him. He also was a third baseman, so he had that in common with him. But yeah, as a kid, I loved only baseball, and I don't know. Once we got the Rockies, I went to several games the first year, and I just kind of grew out of it. And I just considered baseball, like in Scotland, it's considered a children's game. Rounders is what they call it. And they're like, it's for kids. It's like, that's not a real. And I don't know why. It's like South Park. I don't know why. I just kind of grew out of it. I stopped being interested. For whatever reason, I stopped being interested in baseball. And then soccer because of the 2002 World Cup. That was Korea, Japan. Kind of reeled me back in. So that was 2002, yeah.
Yeah, it was early 2000s. I don't really remember.
94, 98, 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. Math checks out. That was the one. That was the one that was split between Japan and South Korea, and I went from casual. That's when I went from casual fan to actual fan of soccer. So
Good. All right. Well, I was kind of a baseball fan too, because I mean, I grew up in 20 minutes probably at the most from you. I remember going to Zephyrs games or Grizzlies. Zephyrs.
it was Zephyrs for me. The Bears were before the Zephyrs,
Yeah.
but I have no
Bears.
memory of the Bears.
Me either.
I've just
but
seen Bears paraphernalia.
I do remember opening day for the Rockies. I was there for that game.
Nice.
And,
My
and
uncle
Eric
went,
Young
but I didn't.
hitting the freaking home run off like the first pitch. It was almost
Oh,
like,
wow.
is this fucking shit for real? Did this just happen? Or like, we just got a baseball team. The first guy at bat, first pitch, and he knocks it out of the park. You couldn't have asked for a better like start to baseball in Colorado. It hasn't been much of a. I mean, it's been a roller coaster since. But I grew up a Detroit Tigers fan, and it was mostly because of my grandpa. My grandpa lived and breathed the Tigers, and every time we visited, the only conversation I could get out of him was about Tigers. So as I grew up, and I was the oldest grandson on that side of the family, so I think I was kind of that release for him, because my grandma didn't give two shits. It was either golf or nothing. And so he could actually talk baseball, listen to baseball. I was a bit of a shortstop and a pitcher. So Jack Morris, Alan Trammell. I was a big Nolan Ryan fan too. I mean, no one could throw the ball like Nolan Ryan. Despite him not being on my team, I really liked Nolan Ryan.
Yeah. Texas Rangers, yeah.
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 And to see him beat the shit out of Robin Ventura at the end of his career was pretty awesome. But I too kind of grew out of baseball. Right around the time the Rockies became a mainstay here in Colorado was about the time I kind of just, I left baseball in the dust, mostly for soccer and hockey. There was a brief bit there in my early childhood where I think I liked most Detroit teams. The Pistons, I could probably have named off a handful of guys on the Pistons, you know, the Isaiah Thomas kind of era, Bill Laimbeer. more than I could a Nuggets roster. Never ever liked the Red Wings though.
It was kind of the era we grew up in, the early 90s. The Nuggets were just garbage.
Oh, they were.
I remember they would give away free tickets at school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
It's
saw
almost like the
CBS.
Rapids now.
And it was always the Jazz. I saw the Jazz twice because for free. But when I moved to California, San Diego, there were Lakers fans around me, and I remember being asked if I was a basketball fan by a super Lakers fan. And I said no, because I grew up in Denver, and he just laughed and said, I totally get it. But I didn't even consider them a professional team. They were kind of on the level of the Washington Generals to me.
Well, it didn't
I-
help that their
I-
logo looked almost the same.
Yeah, and I went to...
You talk about $3 T-shirts. My mom would like collect $3 Nuggets apparel to like send back to the Philippines, and I guess she might have made some Nuggets fans that way.
over there, they think we won the championship.
But in those days, I was always a Michael Jordan fan just because he
How
was
can
like
you not be?
Yeah.
transcendent to the sport.
He's bigger than life.
And I
Yeah.
remember
At the
my
time.
uncle in the Philippines would send me Bulls stuff because it was cheaper to buy there. And I was like a huge Michael Jordan fan back then.
Yep.
And then you had the video games and all that. That was when, before sports
Right.
became such a
NBA
business
2K
that
and
it
whatnot,
is
Yeah.
now.
Isaiah Thomas was definitely my kind of follow to. I got the headbutting between the two, but there was an appreciation for Michael that I still have. Like I watched the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance and I got all nostalgic and almost kind of was like, oh, I don't know if I even can finish this right now. And it's kind of, basketball has a different kind of a story to me. I always kind of just watched it from afar, but you know, it was hockey and baseball and soccer. I think those were my top 3.
And I'm kind of an outlier amongst us, and I've never liked baseball at all,
I was gonna say we haven't
despite trying.
even talked about football, but I was never interested, and I didn't grow up in any kind of sports family except for uncles were fanatic about the Broncos. I couldn't care less. I
Yeah.
went to the parties and I was in the kitchen. I wasn't watching the game. I could not care less. I remember sneaking away to another TV one Super Bowl to watch The Simpsons on Fox because
could
I
totally
couldn't
see
care
that,
less
too.
about the Super Bowl that was happening. So it's just a game that has
That's
never
interesting.
ever appealed to me in any kind of way.
So you couldn't even like say there's a team you give a shit or have gave a shit. I mean, yeah, like you said, your
I
uncles
can
and family are Broncos
pretend-
fans, but
I can pretend to give a shit about the Broncos because I live here, but when I lived in San Diego, I didn't even pretend to give a shit about the Chargers.
well, that's probably because most of San Diego didn't give a shit.
No,
about the
that's why they
Chargers either.
left. That's why they left. But no, I always used to say kind of like, I guess someone's got to win the Super Bowl. It may as well be the Broncos. And then I experienced them winning one.
Or
And I'm like,
two.
I don't want to deal with that shit again. I don't want them to even make the playoffs anymore.
Wow.
I don't-
just because of the hype.
Just because of that whole goddamn party that professionally I have to care about
Yeah,
downtown
that's kind of
that
what
I don't
was-
want to ever have to deal with again. If
Yeah.
I'm not in the job I'm in now, then fine, win it. I don't care. I won't be
Which is
watching.
weird because I feel like that made me a better journalist when I was actually covering the Rockies, because Michael Kadire was just a guy to me. So I just spoke to him like a normal human being. It was like,
Have you ever tried to speak to an NFL player as a normal human being? It's like talking to this dog right here. In fact, this dog is cute. You can't even get that. I've had to interview Chargers. I've had to talk to Chargers as a journalist. And beyond not knowing what the hell I'm supposed to talk to them about, their answers make no goddamn sense because they can't speak. They're not.
They're not articulate enough.
These are football players. Like, I can talk to a soccer player all day. Football players, it hurts you to be intelligible.
I think it depends on the football player, but I can definitely see that.
Yeah, everyone I ever talked to. And I didn't interview them about football because I'm not a sports reporter. I interviewed them about community events they were participating in, and they still couldn't give me a lucid sentence. I just gave the fuck up on that entire species of human being that fits into that league. I just can't even deal with them.
Wow, that's holding them to a whole different kind of bar there.
I just want to communicate as a person who also speaks the language you speak. This isn't like, I'm not interviewing Sammy Sosa. You grew up here. Speak English, man. It's like, I got to put you on somehow, on TV somehow.
How do you want me to make you look?
Yeah, and I got to answer why there's no sound for this story. Well, because he's insane.
Here's the sound.
Yeah.
And then the editor or producer is like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's just because I didn't interview them right, is what it comes out as. It's like it's never because they can't speak. It's because I didn't ask them good questions. Okay.
I think as football, I still, I'm not wearing it. I wore it this morning, actually, though, my Detroit Lions hoodie. That was probably next to the Tigers, the only other Detroit team that I still, at 42, follow. I don't give a shit, but I follow. Like, I was a Barry Sanders fan. Watching him run and watching him just make guys miss made me laugh. And in fact, when we would play football in the backyard of our friend's house or whatever, I ran like Barry, and I loved making people miss. The juke move got its name from Barry Sanders, I think. I don't know, but that's where I heard it from. So I think for football, that was where I lived and breathed football, which was only for about a couple years in junior high. But as a Lions fan, there's never a time to be proud. Because
They're here to ruin your Thanksgiving every year.
Well, that's no, well, I don't know.
Why do they always play
Bec-
Thanksgiving?
Because
Why is that?
it was one of those things that when they decided to have the Thanksgiving game, Detroit was one of the original few teams as far as football goes, and hockey too. But I could never get onto the Red Wings. I said that earlier, but
They
I
actually
don't
won,
have
though.
I don't have a real actual answer for why they're a part of every Thanksgiving. I just know that they were a part of every Thanksgiving before Jerry Jones had to buy his way in and make Dallas part of Thanksgiving too. That was the only reason I looked forward to Thanksgiving as a kid. The food meant nothing to me. It was the fact that was the one time a year I could watch the Lions on TV.
Lose?
It was 50-50 whether they would lose on Thanksgiving. No matter how bad they were, except the one year they lost all 16. Thanksgiving usually
That was a tough year.
They won
was-
they lost all 16
Yeah.
games.
they
one
were the
year.
first team to
Yeah.
ever lose
That was like
every
5 years
single
ago?
game.
How
Yeah,
long
it was
a little bit ago.
yeah, it was
I
a
don't
handful of
remember the
years
date.
ago. But it wasn't too long ago. But they were the first ones in the NFL to ever have lost every game.
Yeah, that's almost impressive. Like that's
Are
Yeah.
the Jets on that way?
They might
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
I'm like, I think, have they won one yet?
No.
They
season?
almost beat the Patriots.
They were close. The
Actually,
Patriots had
as
to
much
come
as
back.
I'm a
and-
Bills fan, we were a little too freaking close. I did not like it because I was a little cocky. I was like, oh, we're playing the Jets. We're going to kill them. I'm like, holy shit, this was close.
And so for you just mentioned being a Bills fan. So football and hockey were probably your big sports.
Well, I think we live in a cold environment, which obviously Colorado is too, but we have lakeside effect. So, like, yeah. But I also grew up with two brothers that played the sport. So, which is funny because we were talking
Football
about
or
the expense,
hockey or
too.
both?
Well, both. And then my parents, it was expensive, so they had to choose which one they wanted to focus on. One brother chose football and one chose hockey. But I think for me as a kid, we had season tickets to the Sabres, and there's a lot of games throughout the season. We had season tickets we shared with football. So obviously, football, we didn't see as many games, so I had to share it with my brother. So they would take my brother's one game and my sister in the other game. So we didn't see a lot of football. But I will never forget the tailgates for football. I think that's what I loved as a kid. I appreciate football now that I'm older. I understand the game and I love it. But hockey was my favorite sport as a kid. But I think we also were skaters. Like we were one of those kids that we lived in the country. We would shovel the pond and skate on the pond, and like hockey was our sport.
Yeah, none of us had a fucking pond.
And I was one of those dorks that I was probably that young girl. They were my musicians in a way. They were my rock stars. I could tell you their birth dates, their like what year they were born and how cute they were. I was a little bit like that. Now that I'm older, I'm not like that as much.
Who was your crush then?
Paul Sear was probably my biggest crush, which is funny because he wasn't the most talented, but he was definitely the best looking. And then
If you ask-
weirdly,
If you ask my sister that same question, Rob Lowe, hands down.
well, to me, he could have been he was
That's-
close to Rob Lowe.
that's
But
all
one
I
of
knew
my
about
favorite
hockey.
players of all time was Lindy Ruff, which he wasn't out of looks, which is really weird.
No, this
'cause
guy
I did
looked
not
like
him
Coach.
by looks, but I loved him
Like,
for
you know,
some
the TV
reason.
show Coach,
yeah,
right?
Hayden
Like,
Fox, yeah.
And he was, and that's why my favorite number's always been 22. And he wasn't even the best player, so I honestly don't know what drew me to him, but I just loved him so much. And
He had that je ne sais quoi.
I don't know, but we would go see him all the time. They would scrimmage in our little tiny town ice rink. I would steal like their tape on their back. I'd rip it off.
Jock
I'd,
straps,
like-
whatever I can
I
get
was
my
a
hands
little young
on.
for that. Wink, wink. Not really, parents.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if your parents listen to this.
Actually, Pierre Turgeon was probably one of the best looking players back in that time.
And this is before they wore helmets mandatorily.
Well, I'm not that old. They might have not had face masks when I was watching. But
You just mentioned a player who didn't wear a helmet,
who?
Pierre Lacroix.
Pierre Turgeon.
Oh,
Turgeon.
Turgeon. My bad.
You're talking about like Gil Perreault. What is it?
Gilbert
Gil-
Perreault.
Yeah, he probably didn't wear a helmet. And I grew up knowing him, but I didn't know him. I learned him by just hearing about him.
Okay, I got you.
But yeah, I loved hockey. It was a fun sport. It was the only sport that I appreciate fights. I hate fights in general. But you give me a good
We're 4 beers in.
Like, I know. I love a good hockey fight. Especially when
And a
it's
good
the,
fuck.
when it's the goalies and the gloves go down.
Oh,
You're
like a
"Ooh,
good
yeah."
Chris Osgood, Patrick
goes
Waugh
down on
fight.
you?
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's what
But
made
when I
Patrick
moved
Waugh the
here-
GOAT.
Yeah.
Sackett's one of my favorites. I love Joe Sackett. Forsberg. LePerriere is probably one of my favorites because he's kind of that little guy, the tough ass, but
He
he's
was a bit
good-
of a scrapper.
He's good. He's a scrapper and he's a good player. I liked him a lot. So I like the Avs too.
Okay. All right.
Patrick Waugh was always my
Yeah.
idol growing up.
He's
We
good.
we didn't have a pond playing here in Denver. It was always hot roller street hockey.
Right.
You're sweating. All your gear is covered in sweat, and you have that hockey smell.
Oh, that smells horrible. My brother would keep his equipment in one room, and it was like one of those rooms no one would want to go in. Like, you go in there. No, you go in there. It's horrible smell.
And he's one of the sports personalities that when I met him, he was a nice guy, but I also know he had some issues with his wife. So
I didn't know that part, but
yeah.
I had heard some stories, but yeah, Patty Waugh was definitely, and I played goalie. That was my position.
I like him.
So I have like goalies are the ones that I could run down names that mattered to me, and Patty was up there. But weirdly, Jeff Hackett was my kind of, I don't know why, and he
I
wasn't
liked him
that
too.
great, but he ended up. I mean, Hackett usually ended up on some of the shittier teams. Like he got his start with San Jose as the San Jose Sharks came into the league, and he just got destroyed. And then he ended up in Chicago when Chicago sucked ass, so he wasn't doing all that great there. And at some point, after the end of his career, he ended up the goalkeeper coach here in Colorado. So that was kind of nice to see how his career had kind of come to here as one of the probably few guys who followed Jeff Hackett. Ron Hextall blew me away because he was one of the few goalies to score more than one goal in hockey.
That's rare.
Yeah, exactly. Dominic Hasek, the Dominator, Felix the Cat Potvin in Toronto. Like goalies were, man, I paid
You
attention to
didn't
goalies.
even say Marty Brodeur.
Brodeur, the only reason I didn't go Marty is because there's that little bit of rivalry between him and Patty. And I felt like, and Brodeur's going to pass him, kind of like Emmett Smith passed Barry Sanders. I don't really care for Emmett Smith because he passed Barry Sanders. So I have that kind of same feeling for Marty Brodeur. Mad love for Manon Rheaume, the first female to ever play in the NHL. Also happened to be for my Tampa Bay Lightning. Goalies, I think, were a huge focal point for me in hockey, and one of the reasons I think I loved hockey. It was just
One thing I love about goalies is kind of weird. Goalie, I always feel bad because you could have the best game ever, but let one goal in, which may not even be your fault.
Ken Dryden.
I can't. Yeah, whatever. I hate that part. But the one thing I love about goalies is like I love that the camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
Yes. Like if you touch that goalie, you got like 4 or 5 guys that'll fuck your shit up because you touched the goalie. Like I don't know why I like that. Like protected. They're the bouncers.
It's like the quarterback, but goalies are like tougher.
Yeah,
I
well,
feel
the
like.
quarterback, they get sacked.
Quarterbacks
but no
are
one
more
goes
like
after anyone. But
they're
also
also more
football, you
like the
can't fight
pretty.
with.
They're
With
more like the
hockey,
pretty boy of the team, the quarterback. Whereas the goalies, they're more respected.
Yeah, the goalies are not usually the better looking guys, but they do have some mad respect, and they're a little cuckoo in the head.
But I like if anyone fucks with the goalie, you put players out. They'll like, you fucked with my goalie, I'm gonna fuck with you back. Like, and they go after it. Now football's a little different though, but I think you're not allowed to fight like you are in hockey a little bit. There's a little more expectation. Hockey, you kind of expect.
Hockey's
a
really
little
the
hockey
only
fight.
sport where you can
Where
straight
football,
up like
you get that flag and that one penalty could cost the game. You're not going to do that with hockey. I mean, you can a little bit, but not like that.
well, maybe it goes back to Matt saying certain types of players and IQs
Mm-hmm.
and how you kind of approach the sport.
But I
know
think
what
it
mean?
also is a generation thing, which Matt said, because as a kid, I grew up near
That's
upstate
true.
Buffalo where we didn't have a pro baseball team. So a lot of my families, I had a Philly fan brother, a Dodger fan,
Dad
a
likes the
Yankee
Yankees,
fan.
yeah.
So you kind of picked who you wanted because we didn't really have someone close to us. But it was more of a kid. It was more kid-like. Like we had, what's the league right below?
AAA.
So that in Batavia, which is weird because we're such a small town, we actually had a team that was AAA, and my dad would volunteer working there. So we'd always go to the baseball games. So that's and it's funny, I didn't even think of it.
Did you guys ever see
mentioned
Summer
it,
Catch?
because it really was one of those fond memories as a kid.
No, but my brother also did that with the Durham Bulls when he lived in Durham, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
He was one of the guys who ran with the screen to sort of sift the dirt.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
did.
loved that.
Yeah, and he would. I don't know what my dad did. Like, I don't know if he sold nuts or whatever, but he actually
worked the
like, He
concessions.
did. I don't know what he did, but he always. And we were kids, and that was one of my favorite. I love those memories. And that's where I like baseball quite a bit. But
Yeah, I can appreciate that kind of old world, that old Americana kind of baseball, like The Sandlot when I was a kid. The movie The Sandlot, that kind of feeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I don't get that anymore.
yeah. But I do like going to the Rockies. We usually, other than with COVID, we used to go a lot. Actually,
A couple times a year.
We didn't maybe not watch the whole game. We'd eat our peanuts and hot dogs and leave before the game was over.
I would go out of civic duty. I'd take my son to about one game a year, and we would get so bored by the 6th inning, we would just say, let's fucking get out of here.
And
Yeah, there's
everything's so
other things to
expensive. I
do
think price
downtown while we're
hurts.
here. That
Well, I think price hurts too because
Yep.
yeah,
you can't eat
$15 for a beer,
that,
$9
like it's
for
a
a
rip-off.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that was going back to the Chargers. That was a big complaint of the Chargers. Is I think the cheapest ticket was $100, so everyone was priced out, and then they would black it out on TV because no one would buy the tickets because they were not a team worth watching.
The Bills did that years back. They blacked out, and that
Yeah.
was horrible.
Yeah, and it just kind of snowballs into fine, we're leaving your city, and
Yeah.
then that's what happens. That's the result of nobody coming to your game.
So you guys kind of touched on it with that and the Rapids. What are some never meet your heroes moments you guys have had?
Phillip Rivers,
Oh,
was he the quarterback for the
yeah,
Chargers?
he was the Chargers.
Talk about a mush brain.
Oh no, he's still isn't he in Indianapolis now?
Yeah, and he has how many kids? 6 at least?
Oh no
I
shit.
didn't say he was a mush dick. I said he was a mush
Are
brain.
they with the same lady?
As we're
I
all
think
quiet.
so.
I don't know. He's probably a lovely guy. He just can't. He should never be given the podium. He just can't speak. I hated
Where is he
having to
from?
cover
He
him.
has some accent. Or maybe that's just a
I
mush
just
brain
assume
accent.
they all come from
It's a concussion.
Texas.
they all come from somewhere in
Tennessee,
Texas, don't they?
Texas, Florida.
Basketball. They went to such the depths as recruiting from the prison
basketball.
system in Texas.
That's the best sport ever.
Oh man. If only that
Mine
were
was
real.
John Elway. He refused to sign an autograph for a young kid, and that's when I knew he was a douche. And then I started reading more of John Elway douche stories over
Well,
the years.
I dealt with him
I
personally.
don't know
And
much
that's
about
why
him.
I was
Yeah.
always a Terrell Davis fan growing
Hmm?
up, and everyone was in this town was a John Elway fan. But I assume they've never met him, and I usually ask, and that's the case because most people that have met him know that he's kind of a douchebag.
Yeah, I
And that's a
worked.
fear of meeting anyone that you idolize in a way or put up on a pedestal.
But when
because
you
don't
meet-
want to be disappointed.
When you meet
wanna
someone and they're
visualize-
like a genuinely good person, that kind of solidifies your fandom.
Yeah. I mean, and I worked for Elway, so I definitely have to agree with you there. I think that was probably the biggest disappointment as far as like, okay, yeah, I grew up watching you and you did some really great things, but you're kind of an asshole to me.
It didn't seem like he even respected his own property.
Well, that's
from
just
what you
it.
had said.
It wasn't so much to me in general. He just, I don't even think he looked me in the eyes. And to be honest, I don't know if I ever looked him in the eyes because, there's that intimidation factor. And I was 18 years old washing this guy's car and boat. But the way he took care of his property, his boat specifically, really kind of set with me. And there just was no care or lack of, I mean, there was definitely a lack of respect for his own property, and that kind of
Yeah,
that
and that's
weirdly
definitely
I
a
almost kind of
privilege thing
see
too.
Yeah,
Because I feel like if you're a working class person and you've had to like earn your way through life, you kind of respect things a different way. But if you haven't,
yeah.
you've had
I mean,
things handed to you,
or if you know that you can just
really
throw some,
expensive things that other people work really hard their
or may
lives
never
for.
see in their own lifetime. Like, I'll never own a boat like he had. I mean, barring a winning lotto ticket, but yeah, I mean, those are the kind of things that definitely sit in my memory. But as far as athletes go that let me down, like a never meet your hero thing, I think he would be it. I mean, we've met a few with the Rapids, but I mean, Matt mentioned it. Talking to a soccer player is different.
You got to be smart to be a soccer player.
Yeah, that's actually, I'll agree with that because there's some soccer players that have the same like educational background wherein they haven't really gone to college but they're still smarter than other athletes
Like a
that
Dylan
have
Cerna.
like the same educational background.
Shane
yeah,
O'Neill.
it just takes brains too. The strategy of soccer is such that it takes intelligence to adapt, overcome, and defeat. Whereas football, you're just memorizing patterns, and it hurts you to think. You probably get in trouble.
And there's no actual coaching.
You probably get in trouble to think in football because
Like there is some coaching in certain levels of football, but for the most part, a lot of football coaches, they aren't like tactical geniuses.
My dad will
I
tell
speak
you
from
that.
my own experience
Yeah.
playing football. Like I knew more about our high school football coaches, more about the game than our high school football coaches knew, and that's why I quit playing football.
My high school soccer coach didn't know nearly.
It's like
as
we're
much
gonna
as
run
some
the
of
same
us.
play,
Yeah.
I formation, run it up the gut for a yard for 3 plays. I'm like, that's not how you get 10 yards on a first down. You know that, right? And they didn't win a game.
But that was me playing Madden '98. I would pick for one of 3 plays. It was either a short toss over the center, or it was a sweep, or a quarterback sneak.
And they
depending on
wondered
how
why
much yards I needed.
defenses could read their plays so easily. And they actually got mad when I picked off their star quarterback as a freshman 3 plays in a row. I'm like, no, this is where if you're a real coach, you need to figure out that you're doing something wrong when your freshman is picking off your play for 3 plays in a row. So, yeah, football is full of meatheads, which
And
is
they
what
make
I
it
don't
look
like
like it's
about
impressive.
football.
They hold that little thing above their mouth, like, you don't listen to what we're talking about.
Yeah, you'd think that they'd be happy to wear masks now that people wouldn't have to.
I can't remember, and it's funny you should say that. I can't remember what game I was watching, but one was kept, and I'm sure it's habit, but he had a mask on and he was doing that. I'm like, dude, we can't see you anyway.
They should do the signs like baseball does, where you're just patting yourself in various places at various tempos.
But don't they have to change their padding so people can't?
I don't know anything about it, but I was told once.
Yeah,
that-
because that's how the Astros won their World Series.
Like, I
Apparently,
know
is
that Pat. Like,
they figured out all the pats.
yeah.
I was told once that not all the pats, some of the pats are red herrings, and not all the pats are to be paid attention to. But they'll do a certain pattern in the beginning, and then you pay attention to the next few things they do, then not the next things, and then it's harder to crack that way. That's something I was told as a kid by a kid, and maybe that kid was smarter than the Houston Astros, but that's what I've always thought it was.
It's kind of how I've always seen it. And we've touched on teams and some kind of like group sports, but what about individual sports? What about personalities?
Andre Agassi.
Yeah.
Ah,
Andre
tennis.
fucking Agassi
I used to love
was the
him.
coolest guy
That's
on earth.
hilarious. He married Brooke Shields.
Yeah, he
not
was the
together
coolest
anymore.
guy on earth when I was a
John
kid.
McEnroe was pretty kind of.
Well, he's before Andre. He was just he wouldn't accept a bad call.
Speaking of, that's one of the few famous people I've met, and he did not disappoint. He was a very nice
Agassi?
guy. Agassi.
yeah.
Oh,
I've met Andre Agassi, and he was a very nice guy.
I had a crush on him.
Oh yeah,
thought he
you
was
and
a
every
cutie.
my sister, my neighbors, everyone,
Everybody
every
loved him.
girl. He was the
first
coolest
kind
guy
of,
on
like,
earth.
He was
Literally.
And granted, I mean, I'm not a huge soccer or tennis fan either, but I do appreciate it. I do play it a little bit. But he was the first one to break out kind of that like personality where I
Yeah.
think he brought the more
Stardom. I mean, I remember
little
the
bit.
the
He
Canon
totally did.
commercials for the
The
camera.
EOS Rebel.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
He had the paintballs and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but he had the long hair. He was not. He didn't wear the color white, solid white all the time. Like he was the only one with any personality
Yeah,
in the world of tennis. He was the Scottie Pippen of not the Rodman of tennis, basically.
he really was. I wouldn't have known him otherwise.
Yeah. But he was just Mr. Like, that's the coolest guy I've ever seen as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid.
That's impressive because that's like you spit him out real quick. I don't even think I finished my sentence. You're like Andre Agassi.
Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah, as far as individual sports go, he's it for me. I mean, I didn't follow swimming, but I guess Greg Louganis was the biggest name I can think of from those era, that time.
Probably there. Yeah.
He was mostly famous, though, for hitting his head.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And then the whole AIDS thing.
Yeah, and then I guess Mark Spitz would have been the next most famous swimmer I could tell, or diver or whatever.
Well, kudos
I
that
would
you
go
could
to
even remember a
skaters
name
for-
because
I didn't even think of Andre, which is awesome.
Brian
I would,
Boitano.
I would. Well, I wouldn't have
I
thought of
only know
him just
him-
because he's later, but I would have thought more of the older skaters.
only
'cause
know
that's
of
what
him.
I loved in Olympics.
Scott
I'd always
Hamilton.
watch.
I only know
Oh, yeah.
or,
Scott-
or
he
Scott
would
Hamill
be-
or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, he was the first
Yeah.
one to do the backflip.
Yep.
I only know of Boitano because of South Park, the movie.
Yeah,
I had to
what
look-
did Brian Boitano do?
I had to look up who Brian Boitano was after I saw that song.
Oh yes. I think skating is. I could think of a couple females, but none of them that are like, oh yeah, that was great. Like I
Well, Mary Lou Retton, you think more of like
Scrooged. That's the only reason I knew who she was. She was Tiny Tim and Scrooge with
oh
Bill Murray.
no, that's the only way.
My brother-in-law and my sister are race car fans, so they have individuals that they like, but I couldn't name a single race car driver.
Richard Petty
right now.
was. I
Yeah, I
mean,
wouldn't
in
either.
my years of growing up, I mean, the number 43 car, Richard Petty was kind of.
There's several
Um,
juniors.
Dick
that I
Trickle,
can't-
like for real.
that 70s
just a
show.
funny name.
I know that name from that
Dick
70s show.
Trickle.
But
Yeah.
it was real, and he
I'm
drove
just
the
saying it's a
skull
funny
car.
name.
So as someone who dipped
That sounds
and kind of
peak
like
NASCAR.
Oh, it was total. I mean,
He
you
was in the
basically had
70s,
two
yeah.
penis references next to a skull.
That's marketing.
It would almost be
couldn't have
good
got
for him
better.
to have like a fountain because I picture Dick slowly trickling. Dick Trickle.
Dick Trickle.
If anything, they should have taken more advantage of that. But I guess there's restrictions
Mm.
on tobacco advertising.
That was the 70s.
That was the late 70s, early 80s before they put in like I can remember when they stopped putting cigarette commercials on TV. We had to be. I mean, it was early 80s.
Purely as an athlete,
remember
I can
it.
appreciate Tiger Woods.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was gonna get to
he's
that.
kind of a shit show as a person.
He's talented though.
But he changed golf forever.
Yeah, and for what he accomplished,
What's
as
the
far
crocodile guy?
Crocodile guy?
Steve Irwin?
No, that's
Oh, Phil
tennis.
Mickelson.
Yeah. That's what I.
Why is he a
picture.
crocodile
I
guy?
don't know
he's from
why.
Australia.
He reminds me of crocodiles. Maybe that's
He
why.
always used to wear that hat too. I
think
think.
Yeah,
that's
he
what
had
it
the
is.
little
The Crocodile Dundee hat?
A little
With the
bit.
teeth around there.
I can mention a snowboarder, Sean White, is pretty transcendent as far as
Snowboarders,
individual.
That's a good one.
The fact that I know his name tells me you're probably
Yeah.
right. Because he's the only snowboarder other than
Tony
that
Hawk.
cute
I was
Korean
trying
Tony
to
Hawk,
think.
a
American
skater.
woman.
Yeah,
Tennis,
Chloe Kim.
tennis
Kim,
I
yeah.
appreciated
She's
Federer
cute.
and Nadal. They're both at the top of their game.
Oh, Nadal. Yeah. Although I mean, I don't know, man. Tennis. The two names that are going to come to me is Agassi and McEnroe.
Yeah, Agassi's a good one. I would
Like-
never thought of him either. That's so awesome.
That's probably the best individual guy that I can.
The
Yeah.
Williams sisters have done a lot, but I almost think of them as a tandem than as individuals.
Well, they're better as a
That's-
tandem too. Like when duos, they have more wins as a duo than they do
They're
like each
powerhouse.
And
individual.
the reason why they're so good individually is because they've played each other their entire lives. So
Yeah.
not
I like
a lot
them
of
too.
other individuals have had that.
There's been
going
some,
for them.
and then opposite of the court of the Williams sisters, and Matt mentioned it when we first brought up the topic last week or whatever. Anna Kournikova.
Oh, yeah. I was
Is
trying
she
to
the
think of her
grunter?
name.
No,
No.
that's
Who's the
Anna
grunter?
Kournikova
Every
was a
time-
straight up
Ah!
Celis. Was that Celis? Celis is the one who got stabbed.
yeah.
That happened.
Anna Kournikova was a straight up supermodel that was given a tennis racket. She was drop dead gorgeous, but I hear she wasn't that great at tennis.
No, she wasn't the best.
I didn't follow her tennis playing. I just had
You're like, I saw
My
her.
computer-
I cut her pictures out. And
my
posted it on
computer
my
desktop
wall.
was absolutely her picture.
Yeah, and she got herself a hockey player in the process. So
Hey, Wayne Gretzky had a little actress.
a little gymnast actress.
That's
yeah,
right. She
yeah.
might been in the Mitch Gaylord movie.
She was in the Mitch Gaylord movie.
That's right.
I was thinking that I think she had Anna briefly married Pavel Bure, which was, I think, next to outside of goalies, he was my favorite hockey player. Very short-lived career. He was probably one of the fastest guys on skates, but just personality and I think the Americas didn't do him well. And
We'll
then-
have to do a separate episode for Wags.
Yeah, and then his
Oh, yeah.
his brother married Candace
that
Cameron
would
Bure,
be funny
or
because I'm
Candace
already thinking,
Cameron,
like, I know so many now.
right? With the WAG episode.
Well, Mike Fisher. He's
Oh,
with the country singer.
oh,
Leanne Rimes.
Deerwood,
Is it Carrie?
Carrie Underwood.
Underwood?
Yes.
Is
This
it
is
Mike
like
Fisher?
Trisha Yearwoods with Garth Brooks.
Yep,
last I heard.
yep. Because she got her TV show on the Food Network.
Yeah, she's the new Paula Deen. She cooks very bad. Yummy, but I can't cook it because it's all fat.
It's a lot of
You
butter.
put 3 sticks of butter and cheese. I'm like, that looks
2 cups of
delicious.
sugar.
That's like
Like-
me for Thanksgiving. All health rules are out the window.
And the Pioneer Woman. That's a whole nother topic. I love food.
Oh yeah, well that could be a whole nother topic. Do we hit up our final thoughts then, as we're talking about other topics? And Matt's over there yawning. You need another beer.
Yeah, but I can't get up until we wrap
I
this
can
thing
Final
get
up.
you a beer.
thoughts.
Do you want to get a beer? I'll get you a beer.
I really need to use the bathroom on my way to get a
Okay.
beer, so
I
I'm
can't
just
help
waiting
you
for this
there.
thing to end.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
end this. We're pushing our 90-minute.
I could bring you a
kinda-
urinal.
All
I
right,
just
final
blame it on
thoughts,
the dog?
Marco.
Yep.
Let's
Final thoughts.
Yeah, Jojo.
Sports at their best, they can bring people together, form friendships, create good memories and experiences. At their worst, yeah, sports can be a lot of bad.
there could be blood involved,
Yeah.
maybe even a war.
The thing about sports, and I think it's good banter. And
Legal
it is,
cases.
It's fun.
Privileged rich people that
Aw,
don't care about their
not so much
fans.
fun.
Sports is a whole nother world, but best combined with friends and beer.
Yeah. I love sports and I love to banter about sports, but I've definitely been in when we went to go to Sabre game. Someone gave me the finger just wearing a Sabres at an Ava game, and I was like, "All right, this isn't fun. What the fuck?"
That happened to me at the NCAA championship for hockey. and we beat their team. So yeah,
Yeah, like, fuck you.
Screw you, Gophers. I assume it was Minnesota.
it was Minnesota
Minnesota.
Duluth, so it was the Bulldogs.
Ah, okay. I was close. All right. Let's spin.
Okay. I've been playing with this, and it's come up Marco like 90% of the time for some reason. So, hope you're ready, Marco.
I say we do a Thanksgiving episode.
Oh, it's me.
Oh,
It came up me.
It came up me.
My topic is, hey, radio DJ used to be the most awesome job in the world, and now it's like the dumbest job I've ever heard.
I
listened to the
love
radio.
it.
I listened to the radio, and this lady was like, it was a DJ duo talking about like the stupidest shit news out of Greeley for some reason. And they're like, a guy was called the police on because he was walking down the street and his pants were sagging, as they do. And then this lady who was his counterpart said, his privates aren't so private. And I literally brought my foot up and kicked the radio out of my car. And so my idea is, hey, radio DJ used to be the coolest job in the world, and now it's stupid. Let's talk about that. Or
Okay.
any other job that used to be awesome is now stupid.
All right.
Oh, that's a
I
good
have
one.
some opinions on this.
Well, there's so many back in the day too. I mean, it depends on how you go back, but
All right. Let's not ruin it. So stick with us for the next episode as we talk jobs that no longer are awesome, or jobs that suck, or jobs in general.